You ever find yourself instantly slapping a label on someone? You know, bad person, jerk, idiot, after just one little thing they do. It happens in a flash, right? Well, what if I told you that's not just you being judgmental? It's actually a glitch in our mental software, a shortcut our brain takes that, well, it leads to some seriously unfair conclusions. I mean, really think about it. We do this constantly, pretty much on autopilot. We see one single behavior, and our mind instantly writes an entire novel about that person's character. And the scenarios, they're probably all too familiar.
So you're driving and someone just cuts you off. What's the immediate thought? It's probably not, oh, maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Nope. It's, what a reckless maniac. We go straight to judging their entire personality from one single move.
Or how about at work? A colleague misses a deadline. It's rare that we stop and think, wow, their workload must be overwhelming. Instead, our brain just leaps to, they're just lazy. A friend cancels plans on you last minute. Is our first thought, I hope everything's okay? Sometimes, sure, but often it's just, how inconsiderate. In every single one of these cases, we label the person, not the situation. So what gives? Why is this our default setting? Well, it turns out this isn't just some bad habit we've picked up. It's a well-documented cognitive bias, a kind of mental shortcut that our brains are programmed to take automatically. And yep, it has a name. This mental shortcut is called the Fundamental Attribution Error. Here's the core idea, and it's a big one. Our brain is basically hardwired to explain someone's actions by pointing to who they are, their personality, their character, while completely, and I mean completely, overlooking the power of the situation they're in. To put it as simply as possible, we blame the person, not their circumstances. It's this powerful subconscious tendency that literally shapes how we see the world and all the people in it. But why? Why do our brains do this? Okay, so what is happening under the hood here? There are a few key reasons our brains default to this, and honestly, it all comes down to a simple, fundamental need to conserve mental energy. It really boils down to three main defaults. First up, cognitive load. Look, our brains are busy. It takes way less energy to just slap a label on someone, lazy, rude, than it does to analyze all the complex situational factors that might be at play. Second, there's something called perceptual salience. Think of it like this. We see the person's action. The actor is right there on stage front and center, but we don't see the stressful morning they had, the argument, the bad news. The stage itself is invisible, so we focus on what we can see, the person. And third, and this is where it gets really interesting, is the self-serving bias. And this is where the double standard really smacks you in the face. When we're judging other people, we point the finger right at their character. They're just a bad person. But when we do the exact same thing, suddenly it's a totally different story. We weren't being a reckless driver. We were late for an emergency. We're not lazy. The project workload was impossible. For ourselves, we can always find a situation to blame. And this isn't just some quirky psychological theory, it has real tangible effects on our daily lives. Just think about how this plays out in a place we spend so much of our time, the workplace. Let's say we see a colleague who's really struggling to keep up with a new project. The fundamental attribution error kicks in, and our internal monologue is something like, yikes, they're just not cut out for this. They're not smart enough. We attribute their struggle to some internal, personal failing. But then it's our turn to take on that same project, and we start to struggle. Would we ever say to ourselves, I'm just not smart enough? No way. We look outward. This deadline is completely unrealistic. I don't have enough support or resources. The problem is the situation, never us. It's a perfect everyday example of this bias in action. So why does any of this actually matter? Because this isn't some harmless mental quirk. Letting this bias run unchecked in our minds has a real cost, creating all these negative consequences that ripple out into our relationships, our careers, and even our entire society. It can build walls between us and our friends and family. In the workplace, it leads to terrible leadership, where bosses blame their employees' character instead of fixing the broken systems. And on a bigger scale, it fuels stereotypes and prejudice. It even causes us to miss out on brilliant people and amazing opportunities, all because we misjudged one action. But listen, it is not all doom and gloom. This bias isn't some unbreakable law of the universe. In fact, just becoming aware of it, that gives you a kind of superpower.
It's the ability to consciously override that default judgment and choose empathy instead.
The most powerful tool you have against this bias is simple awareness. That's it. Just knowing that it exists is half the battle. From there, you can consciously choose to take a different mental path, one that leads away from that automatic judgment and toward thoughtful consideration.
So how do we actually do that? Here's a simple 4-step process. Step 1. Just pause. Before that snap judgment solidifies in your brain, ask yourself, wait, what else could be going on here? Step 2. Make a conscious effort to look for external reasons first. Are they stressed? Are they not feeling well? Did they just get some terrible news? Step 3. Flip the script. Remember a time you acted poorly because of your situation. That is an instant empathy generator, I promise. And finally, from that place, you can genuinely try to step into their shoes.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this simple but incredibly profound shift in perspective. By understanding this bias, you gain the power to be a more empathetic partner, a better leader, and just a more understanding human being all around.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. When was the last time you made a snap judgment about someone's character? Now, knowing what you know, try to imagine what that exact same situation might have looked like, entirely from their perspective. The answer might just change how you see everything.